Good morning and welcome to Hoop City with Paul Sir. I'm with you today from Iowa, where I grew up. I'm in my parents' farmhouse with my 92-year-old mother, who still stubbornly remains on the farm, just filled with determination and courage. And I'll tell you, it's a pleasure to be here, but it's a pleasure to be with you as well. Josh, good morning. Thanks so much for hooking us up and making us bringing us live to our listeners with all of the technology available today.
Yeah, Paul, happy to do it. Happy to see you. Glad you made it to Iowa alive. I did check out my front door this morning with a pair of binoculars. Made sure you got there all right. I could see you standing between the corn. So, glad.
Nice try. Nice try. You're right, though. That's definitely a big part of Iowa. But excited to have this show today. There's so much going on right now. We are on the cusp of March Madness. We're in the month of March, of course, but the madness is it actually has begun. I had the opportunity yesterday to watch a lot of the Big Ten women's events going on, and it's fantastic basketball. And Selection Sunday is only a week away. So why don't we get started today? If you'd share with our listeners our text line and then our poll question as well, Josh.
Absolutely. So if you want to get in touch with us, you can text us at 833-401-1440. That's 833-401-1440. And our poll question today: who is your GOAT in the NBA? Is it Jordan? Is it LeBron? Or is it other? And then this is where the text line comes in. Again, 833-401-1440. Let us know who your GOAT is and why. Best answer gets a Hoop City 3x3 hoodie. It's at a $60 value.
Yeah, it's a great hoodie. It looks good, feels good, and I think it's a great question to ask too, because of course the contemporary discussion is always around LeBron versus Michael Jordan, but people have a lot of opinions. If you're from different eras and generations, there's a lot of other selections that you can look at, and we're just looking for your rationale as why, and we'll pick a winner and we'll send you a hoodie. So I'm excited that we're going to be able to do that. I really look forward to sharing the conversation I had with Ben Golliver yesterday on our deep dive in the second hour. I think it's one of our. I think every conversation with Ben is illuminating and is fantastic, but this I think was exceptional. We really were able to get into some of the things that are going on right now in a unique way. And I think people will really enjoy the discussions that we have. So that's in the second hour. Our community champion, this is serendipitous, Josh. I was at my granddaughter's basketball game at Otwell Junior High the other day when they squared off against McKernan in the junior high school playoffs. My son Steve coaches at Otwell as well. And I coached my sons at Otwell Junior High all those decades ago. We have a tremendous family tradition there. But at the game was a young man by the name of Sabry Phillips. Now, Sabry was a fantastic player at Harry Ainley High School. And after high school, Sabry went on a long journey down through the United States to a number of different university experience. He had to overcome serious injuries in order to be able to continue and to complete his career. He did play with the Stingers last year as well. Sabry is an Otwell Junior High alumnus. And so the opportunity to reconnect with Sabry, it was a real easy decision for me to name him as our community champion because he's back in Edmonton. He's working with young people in training them to become better basketball players. So we'll talk with Sabry in our next segment. But right now, there's a lot to talk about, and I'd really like to get into, let's go into the 3+1.
Absolutely. Let me get over to my wee little tab here. All right. So a couple quick hitters. Spurs comeback last night. Luka and his absolutely monster stat line without LeBron or Ayton. Denver crushing the Knicks. Are the Nuggets? Oh, Denver was crushed by the Knicks. My apologies. Yeah. My apologies. Denver getting crushed by the Knicks. Are the Nuggets in trouble?
Well, it's Spurs first. I don't know if people saw the game or saw the highlight of Wemby's dunk to put the Spurs up 114 to 113 at the time. for the win. But the significance of this game were two principal things. Number one, first and foremost, the Spurs came back from 25 down in the third quarter to find a way to win. Wemby, as he is wont to do, was very emotional after the game. The guy is a winner, and he just lives and breathes winning. But Kawhi Leonard came back to San Antonio, where he won championships with them, and he put on a show with 30 points. And the no-name Clippers, they keep finding ways to play competitive basketball against the best teams in the league. So it was quite an impressive comeback. And I think that what we were able to see was a precursor of just how hard how much winning means to the San Antonio Spurs. So that's number one. Luka goes off for 44 without LeBron, without Ayton. Ayton is on the cusp of almost depression right now, it seems, because he's taking so much heat for his performance in LA. But it was impressive to see what Luka Doncic looked like Luka Doncic last night. He was quicker. He was more energetic. He didn't look so slow. The other day I was thinking there used to be this descriptor of the Lakers when it was the Magic era back in the 80s, and they called it Showtime. And sometimes when I'm watching the Lakers right now, I think it's slow time, because you watch Luka getting up and down the court. It's just painful. But last night it was what Luka Doncic is capable of. So great game, and we'll see if that's an indicator of how he's going to be able to play if he stays healthy for the rest of the year. And then finally, though, and this, Josh, is this is the one that really floored me. Knicks go in and score 142 points in Denver, beat the Nuggets by 39. Jamal Murray limps off the court. Jokic had a nice night, but the rest of the Nuggets were just dreadful. I don't want to say a lot about it because Ben Golliver and I go into detail about the Nuggets' woes right now and the Jokic's challenges. But wow, New York's good. They're not. They shouldn't be that good. But to go into Denver and to have that kind of a humiliating defeat, that really jumps out at you and says, maybe is it just a bad night, or is this an indicator of other that go along with other games where the Nuggets just haven't looked impressive? And I don't know, Josh, how closely you're following it, but it really appears right now that the Nuggets are struggling.
I've been keeping tabs on everybody in the NBA. Obviously, my young brain can only remember so much, but Jokic has not been the same player since he came back from his hyperextended knee, which is a problem. This is a real problem. But sometimes sometimes a year is a year. Injuries suck, but unfortunately they're part of the game. So hopefully this Nuggets will turn it around. Obviously, I think there's still going to be trouble in the playoffs, but to the Knicks of all people, you're Nikola Jokic. You're supposed to bully the hell out of Cat because he couldn't stop anything. If I threw a basketball at the side of a barn and then he was sprawled out times 10, he wouldn't be able to stop it. And yet here we are. The Knicks blow out the Nuggets by basically 40.
Yeah, they do. They took it to them. And what was interesting is Brunson's numbers were underwhelming. When I saw that, I thought, well, Brunson must have had 50, but I think he had 13. I don't have the stats in front of me, but it was not a Brunson game in terms of numbers. And it wasn't even Karl Anthony Towns. It was OG Anunoby's night. He had a huge night. I think he had 30. But I think Ben and I talk a lot about the Nuggets, but I think that was prior to this game actually being played, and I think you hit it right on the head. But there's something that I touch on later, but it's this. Jokic is not the same player mentally as well as physically from before his injury. The other night when Luguentz Dort, who, I love the fact that Luguentz Dort is a very good player in the NBA. He's part of he's an NBA champion. He's recognized first-team All-NBA as a great defender, and he is. The guy's just a phenomenal physical specimen. He's a football player playing basketball, and that's not demeaning. He's just extremely strong, quick, athletic. He would have been a great defensive back, linebacker type player. But that that often viewed YouTube moment where he nudges into Jokic's knee, that should have been a suspension, a multi-game suspension. That was intent to injure, uncalled for, unnecessary, which he admitted later. And that's where the Canadian comes out in Dort, is he owns up to his mistakes. And I appreciate that about him. But there's a lot of other instances where he's just plain dirty and looking like he's trying to hurt people. Not intentionally, but the type of plays he's making will hurt people and you can have serious effects. And that's certainly what he did to Jokic. Jokic, that really seems to unraveled Jokic in that moment, but it's carried forward too, as he's been much more volatile and much more frustrated. So he was really in a bubble, Josh, where the game was so easy for him when he was in the MVP. He was the favorite for the MVP this year, in spite of the great year SGA was having prior to both of their injuries. But since they've come back from their injury, SGA has definitely been able to right the ship and get back to normal, where Nikola, he's still having great games, but he's not the player he was, as you said. And he's also much less confident, and his three has just evaporated. Absolutely. I mean, I've seen the last 3 games. I think he's 1 for 7, 0 for 11, like just absolutely brutal numbers. So, but here's the asterisk to your point, Josh. It's the season is filled with ebbs and flows. There are no continuums that run for the full 82 games. And what worked then doesn't work now. You have to find your way back. And I think that's clearly where the Nuggets are. They have a couple of key starters that are still injured. They need them back. Jokic needs to find himself, and hopefully Jamal Murray isn't hurt too badly.
Yeah. Just one more thing before we move on, essentially, with Lou Dort, is our learned friend Low Tide, Alan Mitchell. One of his coined phrases is, you develop a past. And as much as like this Lou Dort, like, oh man, whoops, maybe I wasn't trying to intend to injure this guy. I wasn't trying to. The more that happens, the more it just starts to seem it's like, hey man, you keep doing this. It definitely, like, you're definitely trying to injure somebody.
Well, as you say, Alan is definitely up on Mount Olympus, streaming out knowledge to us every day that he comes on the radio. Mm-hmm. But he's right on the mark with that, 100%. You are, there's another saying I would add to that. If someone tells you who they are, believe them. And the thing with Dort, he's doing this enough now. You have to believe that this is just dirty play. And one of the criticisms of the Thunder, and you always have to cushion this with, is this jealousy? Is this people trying to undermine the Thunder? Or are they truly a dirty team? And a lot of teams make that claim that the Thunder, they're overly physical. The officials don't call it. There was a great, I'll jump back to Jokic, and it was another member of the Thunder, and that's Caruso. Again, another tough, hard-nosed player noted for his defense. But last year, when you watched the Denver OKC series and Caruso would go in and guard Jokic, he's doing what I consider to be the cardinal sin of any defender, and that is to move under a bigger player's knees when you're guarding from behind, because that takes up their space and it doesn't allow their knees to function normally. And that I have a huge objection to. That's not good defense. That's dirty defense. And I think there's fair commentary on what the Thunder are doing, quite honestly, because they do get carried away. And there's another aspect to the Thunder where Mike Brown came out the other night and said that SGA is the best in the league at getting the refs to call fouls and getting them to the free throw line. SGA leads the league, I believe, in free throw attempts, and he's a phenomenal free throw shooter. And that really is a combination of skill, technique, intelligence, and to a certain extent, Brown's right. He really is, because SGA does get calls that other players don't seem to. But on the other hand, players bite and are baited into it, much like they used to be with James Harden, particularly, where they just develop a technique where it looks like players are grabbing them, even though SGA often extends his arms and pushes and creates space in a way that generally is supposed to be an offensive foul, not a defensive foul.
Yeah, all very interesting. Why don't we hop over to number 2 here real quick?
Let's do it.
All right, number 2, Jason Tatum. He made his triumphant return last night for the Boston Celtics 10 months after his Achilles injury. Posted a stat line of 15, 12, and 7. Is this hurried or a heroic return?
Probably both. But I think one thing that, if you want to use the most absurd, well, first of all, let's talk about what Achilles injuries are like. I personally have happened to have one. Had one.
That's awful.
It's absolutely brutal because the Achilles tendon has no circulation that goes to it. It's kind of like cutting a rope. And in fact, this is the grotesque reality of what happened to me. I was just running down the court and my Achilles snapped, and it literally felt like a rope snapping. And there was a pop, loud pop. So I talked to a friend of mine who happened to be a veterinarian, after I was in a cast, and he said, "Oh yeah, that's a common injury among middle-aged dogs." But and that time I was about 38, so I was definitely in the middle-aged dog era. But for a young player like Tatum, the way that they're able to rehab now compared to what they were, this was 35 years ago. It's come a long way. Medicine, training techniques, etc. Adrian Peterson snapped his Achilles. I came back within 6 months for the Minnesota Vikings and led the NFL in rushing. Had, I believe, a record year over 2,000 yards.
Just absolutely nuts.
Now, I happen to know through my brother who the surgeon was in the Twin Cities. And my brother Pat and I were talking to him, and he said, A, Peterson's a freak of nature, but B, you really can come back a lot faster now if you're willing to put the work in. Obviously, Tatum has put the work in because physically he looked great. His first basket last night was a putback dunk. So he looked good. He looked really solid. He doesn't look like he's certainly not hobbled. He's ready to play. It'll be interesting to see how the Celtics manage his minutes in having him come back. And also Ben and I go into how is this going to work for the Celtics, because the Celtics have exceeded everybody's expectations this year. Is Tatum going to compete with Jaylen Brown, because this is clearly Jaylen Brown's team this year, or is he going to be an asset? I think he'll be an asset, but I would go more heroic than hurried, but time will tell, and I'm sure they'll do a good job of managing his minutes.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it hurried, but I don't know if I call it heroic. I mean, they're sitting second in the East. I think they were doing okay without their proverbial top dog with them.
Yeah, but here's why I consider it somewhat heroic from the standpoint of you add a player of Tatum's ilk and ability into a lineup that has exceeded expectations like that, and you start looking at a long playoff run, to have an asset like that, if he remains healthy and he's effective, how does that pump up their chances against a strong Detroit team and some of the other Cleveland, Eastern Conference teams that are doing so well?
No, hey, great point. All right, let's get to number 3. WNBA deadline is March 10th for a collective bargaining deal to be made. Why hasn't this been brought to a conclusion?
Because they're led by a bunch of idiots. And that starts with the players and goes up into the management. And to a certain extent, I think, ownership. Talk about, and I've used this phrase many times, Saturday Night Live, when they started the show back in 1975, the name of the troupe of comedians that were leading the way were called the Not Ready for Primetime Players. And that certainly is the WNBA. The horrific way people surrounding the league and within the league handled Caitlin Clark, catapulting the league to an untold high level of relevance, and the pettiness and the way that they handled that, and still continue to handle that, by the way, to this bargaining, the way that players have been so outspoken and feeling like they're entitled to something that they have no grasp or understanding of, obviously, just feeling entitled not just to receive the benefits that they think they deserve, but also to speak in caustic, condescending tones about the people that pay them their money. And now we have a March 10th deadline, and paychecks, I'll tell you what, you're going to be feeling it when your paychecks don't show up. So I think the WNBA has handled this as poorly as any league could possibly handle it. I hope cooler heads will prevail. A deal will get done, because the most important thing is that they get back on the court And this league with this star power gets the opportunity to continue to show people why they should watch, because there's a lot of stuff to watch out there, basketball and other in sports. And if you kill the goose that laid the golden egg by trying to be entitled and above it all, that won't necessarily help you as you go forward.
Making a lot of sense to me, Paul. Making a lot of sense to me. All right, just the plus one. I know we got Sabry waiting. March Madness has begun. Conference tournaments have started for women. Men wrap up their regular season this weekend, and conference tournaments. Selection Sunday. That's next week. Canadian Championships for youth sports. ACAC Championships going on this weekend. Maybe you want to break this all down at 10:40. That's a lot.
We'll break it down at 10:40. The only thing I'll say is 10:40, I'm going to primarily talk about the Canadian March Madness. Do something that not enough outlets do across this great country, giving the attention it deserves to our elite college athletes. But I would just say, man, if you have a time today, check out the games between Ohio State and UCLA on the women's side, and then Iowa versus Michigan. Michigan has a great player, Canadian player, Shyla Swords. She's outstanding. That's going to be an epic battle between Iowa, who's very, very good, and in a fantastic Michigan team. So we'll definitely delve into that more in the 10:40 segment. But let's take a break right now, Josh, and we'll come back with Sabry Phillips, our community champion today. So glad you're with us today on Hoop City with Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick. We'll be back right after these messages. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to Hoop City. Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick joining you on this great Saturday morning, and I'm really, really excited about this segment. This is our community champion segment. It was sponsored by Innovative Benefits. If it's time for you to review your company benefits, personal insurance plans, or investment strategies, talk to Randy and his team at Innovative Benefits. They will give you the straightforward and honest advice with access to the very best products in the industry. Trust the great folks at Innovative Benefits to do what's best for you, your family, and your business. To find out more, go to innovativebenefits.ca. As I mentioned in my opening comments, I bumped into this young man at a junior high school basketball game where he played his junior high school basketball. Otwell Junior High, and Sabry Phillips led the Titans to a junior high school basketball championship, and then went on to a great career at Harry Ainley High School, and then went south of the border on what I would have to call an odyssey. So I'd like to welcome in Sabry Phillips, who is our community champion this morning. Sabry, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you here, Sabry.
I appreciate
I'm going to
it.
start. I'm going to start at the beginning. Let's talk. I mean, I met you when you were a little kid. I was not any kind of a genius to recognize that you were something special in terms of your ability as a basketball player.
I appreciate that.
Well, it's a gospel truth, my friend. And you led the Titans to a junior high championship. I remember watching the championship game over at Ross Shepherd High School.
Yeah.
And you went on to play at Harry Ainley. Talk about your experience at Harry Ainley over the 3 years that you played for Coach George Hoyt.
Playing at Harry Ainley was probably a top 2 experience in my whole basketball career. It made me the man I am today. I ran into the good man, George Hoyt, who is a leader of men and really was like a father figure to me, honestly, and took me under his wing. That's where I was able to see the likes of Ahir Ugwak and learn more about the Steve Sirs of our community and kind of get inspiration and what led on to, like you said, a great career.
Well, it was a great career, of course, in high school. And then talk about your dream to play in the United States and how it started, and walk us through your journey, because it truly was a journey, Sabry. And please share the obstacles that you had to overcome. I mean, you had a catastrophic, almost what for a lot of people would have been career-ending injury. But walk us through your career in the U.S. In NCAA Division I and the JUCO experiences that you had.
Yeah, so after my great time at Ainley, I was blessed to receive a scholarship to the University of San Diego. But prior to that, I had already committed to a prep school out in Ontario called TRC Academy, which I had a great time there also. But unfortunately, in our playoff run, in our first game, I went down with a pretty bad injury. I broke my tibula and fibula. It was kind of a freak accident. I was going up for a rebound, and the teammate just fell on me, and just my ankle went to the side. So that kept me out for a long time. I was able to come back, thankfully, and play at San Diego. And then
Sabry, can I just stop on that for just a second, though? Talk about I think it's important to share what a journey, what it's like to have to try to deal with not just the healing physically, but the healing mentally of a serious injury like that.
For sure. I was blessed with the timing of my injury, just because I was young. So it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's easier to bounce back when you're younger. But you hit it right on the head. It's not just physical. It's a lot of mental, being able to trust your body again, not cheat any corners. And there was a lot of long days of, will I be back to how I was before the injury, and stuff like that. But through the grace of God and putting my faith in a higher power, and just the countless nights of work and just surrounding myself with great people, I was able to come back and be a little bit better.
I really appreciate you sharing that. But I think, people, like we were talking in the first segment about Jason Tatum's comeback, when you're on the outside looking in, you do not realize or have any empathy for how hard it really is to come back from a very, very serious injury and set of circumstances. So you made the comeback and you headed down to San Diego.
Yep. So I headed back to San Diego, or I headed up to San Diego. And then honestly, I didn't feel 100%. So after that season, I took a time just to make a decision to go down to the JUCO level. And I was blessed with the opportunity to go to Navarro College out in Texas and make the best of my time there. And then
how did you I'm sorry to jump in, but people don't know a lot about the JUCO basketball world in Canada. I mean, that's a whole different ecosystem. And so on one hand, it's basketball, but on the other hand, it's a real interesting subculture of the sport of basketball. It's very different from Division I in some respects, isn't it?
For sure, big time. Some of the differences is just the resources. Your resources are kind of cut in half. They say the strongest survive in JUCO, which I fully agree with. Playing Division I, you have maybe 4 to 6 coaches on a team. So after practice, you can work out with a coach, or you have trainers that could take care of you after practice. But once you make that jump to JUCO, it's like you got 2 coaches, they got families, so you really got to take care of yourself and make sure you're on top of your gym time and getting your work done and stuff like that. So JUCO is a little bit different. It's a great time, though. I've met a lot of friends, lifelong friends, and brothers now. So I was definitely grateful for the time and was able to build my confidence back up and then receive a scholarship to Stony Brook University out of New York.
Okay, and Sabry Phillips is our guest right now. He is our community champion this week. Sabry, talk about Stony Brook now, out in New York. Yep. Again, that's a conference that a lot of people don't know a lot about, because everybody, of course, who's on the outside looking in is thinking ACC, Big 10, Big 12. But Stony Brook's part of a really good conference, and it's very good basketball. Yes. So talk about your experience there, please.
Stony Brook was a blessing. I came in, unfortunately, injured again. A lot of people don't know, but I had a long 6-year career in college with getting a year back from my injuries and COVID as well. So I went through two big injuries while I was at Stony Brook. I heard you talking about it. Ironically, before I hopped on, I also tore my Achilles.
Did you? I didn't
And that
know
was my
that.
first.
Oh my gosh, Sabry.
Yeah, yeah. So it was my first summer there. Like I said, the resources at the JUCO level are kind of scarce. So after the season, I was dealing with a little bit of shin pain, and I was told it was just shin splints, but unfortunately, it ended up being stress fractures. So I came into Stony Brook with a boot and some crutches, and I was able to rehab that whole summer. And then unfortunately, we had a close scrimmage at LIU Brooklyn, and I was on a minute restriction, funny enough, and it was the last minute. I seen my sub coming, and it was a long rebound, and I stepped back to plant and just heard a big pop. And it
Same
felt like
thing,
somebody
right?
kicked me from behind. Yep. We
Like
all had the
it's
same,
like rope
same
snapping,
story.
isn't it?
Exactly. So I went down. I immediately knew what it was. It was a little bit heartbreaking because I worked so hard to get back to that stage of D1. But like any other obstacle or adversity in life, you put your head down, you put your faith in my case, Jesus Christ. And I was able to battle back from that. And then the following year, we had a tremendous year. We were 3 points away from going to March Madness, lost in the conference final. But once again, lifelong brothers, great experiences. And then, finished up my last year. And it was just a great time. Nothing but great vibes and great things to say about Stony Brook University.
Well, before we get to what you're, having it's so wonderful to have you back in Edmonton. I do want to talk to you about a couple of things that I think are important bits of wisdom to be shared with young people, Sabry, because I'm going to make a couple of proclamations here, if I could call them that. It's a bit dramatic, but I think it's on a personal level. I'd like to share it.
For sure.
So, one of the areas, it's wonderful to see all of the participation in basketball of young people getting involved, the popularization, the growth for boys and girls. It's wonderful. I do have concerns at times because I do feel like families and athletes are sometimes enticed, maybe on the border of not necessarily based in fact, but based in providing dreams that aren't maybe necessarily realistic as reasons to spend money, and in some cases a lot of money, to be part of a club or an organization with the dream of being a D1 athlete one day. Now, everybody has to make their own choice, and dreams, goals, those are important drivers in anybody's life. You've experienced it.
For sure.
Being okay, let's say you're good enough to be a D1 athlete, which, by the way, you can count on 10 fingers the number of D1 athletes that have come out of Edmonton over the years that I've been here, and that's a long time.
Yeah.
But Sabry, it's no joke, is it? Like when you go and you play Division I, that's just a whole different deal in terms of commitment, expectation. I guess the right word is pressure, in amongst the fact that you got to be a student as well, and you're a young person. Is that a fair assessment on my part?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a fair assessment. I think everybody sees the glitz and the glamour of being a Division I athlete, but especially nowadays with how people are getting paid, it's really a job. You're balancing your social life, you're balancing being away from your family, you're balancing being a student. And then also, like in my case, a lot of injuries. So a lot of unexpected adversity and stuff come your way. But for me, and especially my mom always harped at a young age, it's not about the final destination. It's about the life lessons. It's about what you learn and what you're able to retain from the game of basketball. And she always told me this quote: use the game, don't let the game use you. So I carried that with me everywhere I went, and I was able to collect a lot of information and just experiences that I'm thankful for and will help me propel in life. And I'm happy to be back in Edmonton and be somebody that kids can come to and get those answers and those resources from now.
Well, and that's where I want to go as we wrap up our time together, is talk about what you're doing now in how you are working with and helping young people in Edmonton.
Yeah, so I was blessed with coming up in Edmonton with having connections to your family with Steve Sir. I'm sure I bugged him a lot growing up. I was in his DMs asking him for advice, and he was generous enough to respond to me and always give me hope in my journey. Also with Ahir Ugwak coming up in the same family tree and being able to witness his journey. But I started a training business with a friend of mine called Lars Shimway. It's
Another Ainley alum. We seem to be frozen for the moment here. We'll see Josh.
There we go.
There we go. Got him back.
Okay, there we go. But yeah, I started a training company with a friend of mine, Lars Shimway, who also went to Harry Ainley High School and then
Yes.
on to U of A. And
Great
then
career at
he's
U of
also
A.
playing pro. Yeah, he's playing pro now in Africa. And we've started a little training company called Dreams Never Die Lab, which can be found on Instagram. And we're currently working on a website, but we're just trying to give back to the community that has blessed us with opportunities and just resources and wisdom, and just trying to give back to the kids, honestly, be a mentor, and try to give as much game that we have received from our elders and our community and the communities that we've been a part of now, whether it's New York, Texas, San Diego, or in Lars' case, Africa, So, yeah, it's an exciting time. Like you said, the game is growing thanks to people like you, thanks to platforms like this. And yeah, we're just trying to be a part of that growth and help kids just achieve their dreams.
Well, and helping kids achieve their dreams, I think, is so critical, Sabry, because what I think the opportunity in a position like you and Lars are in is to share your true experience and wisdom and knowledge and understanding, as opposed to, I think a lot of times kids get notions from people who have never experienced it. So I think the opportunity to share true experiences is great. But you mentioned a word earlier when you were referring to Steve, is providing hope for kids. And whether that hope is on the court or in the classroom or off the court, that is what really, I think that's the greatest thing that basketball can offer people, is hope. Hope and confidence that hard work will make you more capable in your life to be successful in however you define success. So the fact that you're there, Sabry, with your kind heart and your great experience, our community is all the better for it.
I appreciate that a lot, and I want to give a special shout out to you. You were one of those people. I didn't know a lot about the game. I just knew I loved it, and you were one of those people that seen that talent in me, thankfully, and pushed me in the right direction. And you and your son Steve Sir were a huge part in my journey. So I want to give a special shout out to you and your family. And yeah, you guys are ultimately the reason why we're also giving back. It's people like you that helped us get our foot in the door and get the opportunities we have. So I'm truly thankful for that.
Well, Sabry, that I cannot tell you how deeply that touches me. And I feel so fortunate to have met you as a young person and to have seen your growth and development. And that means the road's been long, it's been hard, it's been bumpy, but like your brilliant mom says, it's taught you. You didn't succumb to the challenges. You met them head on, and now you're there to help other young people meet them head on. You're our community champion, Sabry.
Thank you.
All the best to you and your mom, to Lars, and I look forward to seeing you in the community often, frequently, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It was a blast.
It was a blast. Sabry Philip. I mean, how do you make that up, Josh? Like, to have a young man like that on with the kind of wisdom that he brings at such a young age, and man, oh man, that was wonderful. So
yeah, incredible story.
It is. It really is one that needed to be heard and said and will be shared. So really grateful for Sabry being on today. We're going to take a break right now, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Canadian March Madness. And if there is time, we'll touch a little bit on March Madness south of the border, but I really want to focus on Canada. Here on Hoop City with Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick, thank you for joining us this morning on Sports 1440, your sports leader. It's great to be here. What we're going to do now, well, first of all, though, Josh, are we getting any texts on goats?
Yeah, so actually we do have a text here. We've been getting quite a few texts, mostly people telling us that lots of Edmonton players are in the NCAA for hockey. And I was like, guys, we're talking about basketball right now. They're like, oh my God, you're right. My bad. And I said, is Jordan or LeBron your GOAT, or is it someone else? However, we did get a text in from Steve. I'm not even sure how to pronounce his last name. Musso? I'm not totally sure. He said,
sorry about that, Steve. But
yeah, sorry, Steve.
It's a noble effort.
He says, it's got to be Jordan as the hashtag GOAT from Steve M. Steve M. So
we'll go with Steve M. You bet. You bet. I hope some other folks will throw their hat into the ring about to win this great hoodie, Hoop City hoodie, as well, about who your GOAT is. But let's talk about March Madness in Canada. Now, I wouldn't call it March Madness. I would call it muted March Madness in Canada, because we just have not been able, I think, as a nation, to galvanize a serious following of our university and college athletics. And I mean, the U.S. is unique. Let's face it. The college tradition down there surrounding sports of all kinds, but particularly basketball and football, they just are lives of their own that are decades and eons in the making. But I want to shed some light on what's going on in the playoffs right now at the post-secondary level in Canada. So I'll start with on the U Sports level, that the men's national championships are being held down at the University of Calgary right now. They had their quarterfinals yesterday, and the University of Calgary lost to the number one seed, the University of Victoria. They put on a good show. I think it was 100-88 that the Dinos lost, and now they're in the consolation rounds. But now today, Victoria plays Bishops, and then TMU with Edmonton Energy's Aaron Rooms, who's been the National Player of the Year this year, will face off against perennial powerhouse Carleton in the men's semifinals today down at the Jack Simpson Gym in Calgary. The women's semis are in Quebec City, and there was a huge upset a week ago where the University of Saskatchewan women, who were undefeated this year, lost to the University of Calgary in playoffs, and they received an at-large bid, and they're squaring off today against Laval. And then Calgary won its quarterfinal game, and they're squaring off against the University of New Brunswick. Now, I'm not really going out on a limb by saying this, but I think there's a very, very strong chance that we're going to see two Canada West powerhouses in the national championship game tomorrow. I really expect and hope that we're going to see the Dinos, Lady Dinos from Calgary, squaring off against the Huskies from Saskatchewan. That would be a tremendous final, particularly in light of Calgary beating the undefeated Huskies in the playoffs a couple of weeks ago. So that's what's going on in U Sports. Now, the ACAC, the Alberta Colleges Athletic Conference, the men are playing in lovely Lloydminster, and we have SAIT battling Lethbridge, two Southern Conference teams for the championship, the ACAC championship, and the right to go to the national championships. And I think there's a good chance that the loser will also be in the nationals next weekend. And then on the women's side, talk about lovely, Caronport, Saskatchewan. You can't beat it. It's only 8 or 9 hours from here, and it's this little town. But while I make jest of it, when I was coaching at Concordia, I love playing at Briarcrest. They have a tremendous community spirit. Briarcrest itself is very, very supportive of their teams. And so I'm sure they're a small town making a big difference and making this a great experience. But we have 2 Edmonton-based teams squaring off for the championship today. The Nate Ooks will play against the King's University King's University Eagles for the championship, and they have been the 2 greatest teams of the year in the ACAC. You've got the coach of the year this year playing against the coach of the year last year. Tori Hill from Kings was coach last year. Kira Lyons was coach of the year this year for the Nate Ooks. They're just fantastic programs. 2 tremendous women coaches who are great leaders, great mentors, squaring off. So I'm really excited for both of those teams to be battling. And again, hopefully both of them will be selected for the national championships, regardless of who wins. Now, there's also another great event going on in Calgary, something that's near and dear to my heart, which is the Alberta Basketball Association Youth Provincials. They're taking place all over Calgary in a variety of gyms and locations. It's a massive effort to have youth teams ages 9 and up squaring off in various boys and girls divisions at various levels, A's and B's. They may even have C's now. I haven't looked at it this year. But the great people I worked with at Alberta Basketball in my 15 plus years that are there helping make this happen, and that would be, of course, Natalie Hoy and Reagan Wood, doing so much hard work leading this forward, and this really is herding cats for this weekend. It's marvelous mayhem. That'll compete, Josh, with March Madness. Marvelous mayhem in Calgary this weekend, but it's extremely exciting, and to wax philosophic just for a moment, I had the opportunity to be asked by the 1A high school provincial championships, which are being held in the wonderful community, and I think it's Breton, Alberta. 1A school, 75 kids or less. And what a great opportunity for a community to get behind hosting a provincial championship. But one of the messages I shared with the athletes was, this is every bit as important and significant in your lives as it is for Duke or any of the blue blood programs to go to the NCAA Final Four. It's the same thing, just on a different scale. And it's just as meaningful. It's not as lucrative. It's not as glamorous. I realize that. But when you get down to the essence of this is playing basketball. And it's playing basketball by accomplishing something, which means you had to win to get there. And so for the kids that are playing at youth provincials, I have some of the fondest memories as a father and a coach of coaching my sons in provincials. Some marvelous, marvelous games, and just some great, great opportunities for kids to feel special and to feel part of something. And you move that up the basketball ecosystem and food chain into high school, into college, into university. These are big moments in people's lives that they will carry with them forever. And in fact, I was reflecting that it's 30 years ago that a team I coached from the Otwell Community League went down to Cardston for this marvelous small town host, putting together this beautiful provincial championships for boys and girls. Cardston, by the way, has the most gyms per capita in Canada. And a lot of that's due to the LDS passion about sport and about basketball in particular. But anyway, 30 years ago, this Otwell Community League team thrashed a team out of Calgary, which made it all the more satisfying, called Springbank. And here's my story about that. We were in a restaurant in Cardston having breakfast, and the team from Springbank was there. And the coach was saying, you'll have no trouble with this Otwell team. They don't have good uniforms. And Springbank was all decked out in hoodie, all the gear, everything great. And he said, and their coach is really hard on them. They just don't want to even play for him. Well, we went out and beat it. We were up by 30 at halftime, and we absolutely thrashed them. But here it is, 30 years later, and these kids were. This wasn't U17. This was U15, but those kids still today, those now men in their 40s, all remember that as a very important part of their basketball upbringing and really an important part of life. So I just really believe strongly that even though we have a muted mayhem here in Canada as opposed to March Madness, it is our own March Madness, and it's something that we have to be extremely proud of and supportive of, and hoping that next year we'll see the University of Alberta, the Pandas and the Bears back in the thick of it. I'm sure we will. They have great coaching. They have great programs and commitment. And really am proud of King's University and Nate on the women's side for what they have been able to accomplish this year in putting together two of the great programs in the province. And I mean, I tip my hat to Kira, who followed up with some coaching experience, but really had to learn baptism by fire at Nate in replacing the great Todd Warnick, who now is at Lakeland College rebuilding their women's basketball program. But Kira's done a great job in making Nate into the contender it is, and Tori at King's. I mean, King's University is a small university, high academic standards, religious-based. She's done a marvelous job of building a great program, again, succeeding her mentor, the late, fantastic, great Brian Anstice. So we have lots to celebrate, to talk about. Next week, we'll have the high school provincial championships happening. March Madness Selection Sunday will be happening. We're into the magical time of year for basketball fans, and I really wanted to take a moment and shine a spotlight on what's happening in Canada, in Alberta, at all age levels, because they deserve to be celebrated. We're going to take a break right now.